Recording in progress.
Good evening. I'd like to call this regular Board of Finance meeting for Monday, September 19th, 2022 to order. First time on the agenda, public forum. Anybody wishing to address the Board of Finance in public forum? Seeing none, and seeing none on the screen. Item number 2, approve minutes of the regular meeting minutes of August 15th, 2022. Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or corrections? I did have a couple. First page. I believe, I know that we only went by Zoom, so we were not at the community center last month. And I hardly ever call the meeting to order before 7:30, but definitely not 7:25 in the morning. So we'll just say 7:30 p.m. Amazing I catch things like that. I don't think I had anything else. Anybody have any other corrections or comments? Oh, I did have one. I'm sorry. Page 7. Right about the middle of the page where the last sentence says the total here is, I believe that should be 63,000. And that's it. Anybody else?
I have one at the bottom of page 7. It's really a minor thing. The last paragraph that starts capital items, the second line is, I think it just should be Clabbard Hill Road.
Where are you, Jeff?
Bottom of page 7, last paragraph.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, anything else? Okay, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Thank you. Item number 3, correspondence standing building committee minutes. We have 2 sets. We have a special meeting on 8/19, and we have, I believe, the regular meeting on September 6th. I did receive notification from Chairman DeMeo that he has actually a special meeting with the standing building committee tonight, and so he will not be able to join. I'm just trying to see what that might have been about, because I had a feeling it might be about one of the items that was on there. No, he didn't specify what the special meeting is about. It's just a special meeting with the building committee. So he said any questions that we have just to forward to him. Does anybody have anything regarding either the August 19th or September 6th meeting minutes?
I was going to ask about the boiler. I guess I can do that.
In the special meeting? That was
It was the
August
first-
19th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask,
Please. Please.
could you pause the recording for a moment, please, so I could say something? Important?
Sure, we could do that. Okay.
Recording stopped.
My husband just tested positive, so I don't think I should be here.
Okay.
I just got a text.
Okay.
And you, what did you say when you?
I not?
Okay.
Did I not?
Veronica, will you stop breathing?
She walked in and she said, am I supposed to be wearing a mask?
No?
Go down the car.
Nope.
Zoom in.
All right. Okay. Okay. It's a,
No worries. He's going to need some hot soup.
whatever
Just
you need to
stand
do.
up and walk out the door.
Yep. Yeah, I know. You're a little
Nobody
shell
else is
shocked.
gonna say it, but I will.
I was just trying to think if there's any way I could participate, but.
You could
Zoom in.
zoom in from home. You can zoom in.
Yeah.
Go sit in your car. Zoom in.
Oh, forgive me, I'm sorry I interrupted.
No. It's no big deal.
Thank you for
I
sharing.
hope
Yeah.
he feels better.
At first I was like, what's the protocol for stopping a meeting in the middle? Oh, that's a good one. Okay.
Kara, I was like, what do you have to ask about the boiler?
I thought you might add an emergency, some kind of emergency.
Is the standing building committee that important?
She knew the inside track on the boiler.
I know, I was like, wow, I don't
Really
know.
replacing that boiler.
My apologies, everybody.
Okay, just join if when you can.
I hope he's okay.
Take care.
Okay.
There you go.
We're on hold. All right, so now the question is, okay,
He's still
so
moved pretty
she's up and,
She's gone.
all right, I have to, I'll address it. It's fine, just, we'll go back on recording.
You had a personal issue?
Yep.
Yep.
Great.
Recording in progress.
Are we back on? Okay, we're still going, okay. Sorry about the pause in the recording. Veronica had a personal issue she had to attend to and just let us know, so she's gonna also try to join in by Zoom, so. We still have a quorum, so we're still going, but that was why the pause occurred.
Point of personal approval.
In the meantime, we were talking about boilers. Did you have any particular question you wanted me to, or you
I
wanted
just
to?
wanted to elaborate on it a little. It sounded like enough time went by where they ended up having to replace a boiler they didn't expect. I was trying to just get a hold of it. Maybe it's clear enough in here and I just didn't read it right. It seemed like they ended up replacing an extra boiler, right?
I believe it was a boiler that was old and they didn't plan on replacing it. They were gonna get more life out of it and they didn't. And so they had to replace it. I think that's
Okay.
how I
Because it got
interpret that.
delayed, right?
I can-
They were gonna do it
yeah.
last summer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they thought they'd get more life. But you know what I'll do? I'll ask that question specifically and let
All right. I
Chairman
mean,
do
if
that.
it went kaput, it went kaput.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I think this was largely the question around extending the capacity for Johnson Controls to be able to manage those new boilers, which were both approved at the original bond referendum.
Which was 2.5.
This is the 8/19/22 meeting?
I think it's.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, 8/19/22 meeting,
Yeah,
special
and-
meeting, yeah.
No, this is September 6th, sorry, that I was referencing.
Oh,
And it was section 9, and it was a change order for 25,000.
Oh, the change order, that was.
Yeah, I was trying to
That
just
was,
get
earlier today, Cliff Gurnham presented to the Board of Selectmen the rationale for that. It had to do with some unanticipated staging and phasing of how they replaced both boilers. Quite honestly, it might have been a first-year engineering student because they did they did boiler number 1 and then had to do boiler number 2, but where boiler number 1 was in the way of taking out boiler number 2, so they had to disassemble it,
it's
if
in
I'm
the
not
way
mistaken.
to put the
So
other boiler.
it was a phasing, and then
Ah.
they made a change to some of the heat pumps, is it heat pumps? Or- one of the pumps, a couple of the pumps, right? Cliff gave a great explanation because Charlie Havard had grilled him a little bit about it this morning, and rightfully so. But it was related to change orders based on how they staged the replacement of both of those boilers. And
Access.
it was, what is it, 22,000 or 25,000, I think? And there were 3 pieces to it. One of them was the disassembling and dismantling of one of the boilers
Okay.
so they could get it out of
You
there.
can kind of imagine one is in the way of the other, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, first-year engineering student ought to be able to figure out you do the back one first and then you do the second one, but that's another story.
Okay.
And by the way, just confirmed with Cliff this morning, that's well within the contingency on the project and well below the bond authorization that was voted on at referendum.
Yep, that was the only one.
okay.
I was curious
The only thing I would note is 2 things. One, there were a lot of invoices and a lot of approval bills, which means there was a lot of busyness over the summer of all these projects, and a lot of the projects seem to be finishing up too. So it'll be interesting to see next building committee minutes how many projects are being closed out. So a lot of progress over the summer.
The unfortunate part about it is a lot of these projects are air conditioning and air quality related, right? Heating and air quality. And there's all of a sudden a bunch of money available to do those kind of projects at a state level. So Cliff this morning indicated that he and his team are going to go back and see if we could apply for retroactive
Excellent.
compensation for some of those funds.
Good. Great.
Because those projects are still ongoing.
Good to know. Thank you for the update. Anything else on standing building? And under item number 2 under correspondence, pension committee. Anything under pension committee?
Gee, I saw something.
Yeah, me too.
76, the same number was given for 2 different months. Let me have a look.
Are you on the minutes or you're on the investment report?
Sorry, the minutes.
Okay.
4.1,
Yeah,
reported to the committee that July ended with 69 million
I think it's supposed to say beginning.
something,
Yeah,
and then the ending pension fund balance for the month of July is 76.5 million. It's a funny number there, that 69 million.
That's where it started.
Yeah,
Yep.
If you look at the top of
okay,
the report, that was the beginning balance for the month.
okay.
It may be back closer to 69 after the last few weeks.
Yeah.
I was wondering if we could get some elaboration on section 7.1. Apparently, this was a discussion about fiduciary oversight and review of the defined contribution plan, and apparently there was some discussion about looking for ways to potentially move the oversight to this committee without going through a charter revision. So I was curious what that entails, and
Please ignore the latter part of that. There was some discussion that changing the scope of the responsibilities for the pension committee may have needed a charter revision, but there is no mention of the pension committee in the charter. Bob's shaking his head in agreement.
Yeah, and the charter for the pension committee itself only says that they're charged with managing the money.
Right.
So there's no policy, there's no negotiation, there's recommendations,
Right.
it's just, they're fund managers.
Exactly. So what has happened is there's been some recent case law that has exposed municipalities to the fact that if they're not providing appropriate fiduciary oversight of their 401k and like programs in respect to understanding and knowing that the fund managers that they've selected for the 401k programs are offering the appropriate investment opportunities, as well as having a consistent fee structure to their private sector employees who they also happen to serve. So there's been a little movement afoot in this, in the legal world and also in the HR world, that municipalities may have some exposure if you haven't done your due diligence to ensure that the fund managers that you hire to do your 401k programs aren't doing it right. And there have been some awards to the plaintiffs where the municipalities have had to pony up. So this is, we will probably use FIA, or fiduciary investment, or whatever they're called these days, right? I think it's, is it still fiducian? Good. And we're going to use them, and we're going to actually on Wednesday officially ask the pension committee to assume responsibility for that. We've had some conversations with them in the past, as noted in here, that they are willing to do so. But largely it will be the responsibility of FIA to do the oversight for us and report back to us.
By the oversight, you mean reviewing the fee structure for the financial companies that are managing the funds that the pension committee reviews?
Not the fund managers, but the company that actually is our provider of the vehicle that allows people to invest. Bob, help me out here with
The custodian.
Custodian, yeah, thank you.
Brokers.
Yeah.
I see.
So it's,
I'm curious, I don't think I've asked some questions in the weeds about the defined contribution program, but the money is separate and it's managed by FIA?
completely separate. It's not managed by FAA. It is managed by the entity that we have contracted with on behalf of our employees. We make a contribution. For those who participate, we make a contribution in addition to what they put in. Based on the case law, they say we have a responsibility to ensure that what we are offering to our employees, not unlike what we would offer in a defined benefit plan, meet certain requirements, and that they are getting the appropriate opportunities.
Yeah, the difference is
That makes sense.
The difference is that the way we manage our pension is that the pension committee chooses how the money is invested. And for instance, I'm in the 401k-like plan. It's my responsibility to choose where I want my investments.
Yes.
So we would just want to be sure that the opportunities that me and other employees have are appropriate.
Yep, and maybe make sure the fees aren't too high.
Correct, correct.
Right. All right, thanks for the better understanding, appreciate it. Good month.
That month.
It's all relative.
That month it was.
Yeah.
Item number 3, OPEB minutes, monthly report.
That's because we made our contribution.
Tracy.
That much, yeah.
Tracy. Somewhere in the way.
Hey, look at that. It's
She is.
Tara.
Yeah.
It's Tara.
Hello, Veronica.
Long time no see. I'm sorry, so anything on OPEB?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Okay,
We may have another.
not much there, so
Don't ask me that.
can move on. Okay, item number 4, review and accept the report of expenditures for the Board of Education for August 2022. Mr. Doe, Mr. Della Ventura, welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening. Assuming we'll start with the financial report summary.
Yes, happy to report we enter our 3rd week of school, and we're off to a very good start. So last week, at our operations and regular meeting, we were able to discuss the financials, so I'll share with them tonight, as discussed with Linda. We enter fiscal year 2022-23, the month of August 2022. Expenditures for the month were $3,496,141.15. Through the end of July, that was 13.06 of the budget as compared to 13.93 in 2021-22. We had $400 in revenue, that was from pre-K tuition. Salaries and employee benefits were both lower than the prior year. That has to do with the timing of payroll, just with these first few payroll checks going out. Purchase services, the percent of the budget expended is higher than the prior year. The credit in the insurance line is due to the correction of the posting of the payment for workers' compensation insurance, and the credit in the telephone line is due to the E-rate reimbursement for fiber lines and for Adams and Baldwin. Tuition, I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. The percent of the budget expended is higher than the prior year. The variance is due to the timing of payments. Supplies and materials, the percent of the budget expended is higher than the prior year. The variance is due to the timing of encumbrances and payments. If you can imagine, a lot of our supplies and materials are bought at the beginning of the school year, so that number is going to be, that percentage is going to be higher. Capital, the percent of the budget expended is higher than the prior year. A reimbursement for the capital lease will be requested, which will bring the equipment instruction line within budget. A new line item has been added for the rent space for a new transition program that has to do with the tuition that I wanted to talk about. I will get to that as soon as I'm done with the report. Transportation, the percent of the budget expended is higher than the prior year. A credit for the fuel will be reflected when the next delivery is made to the bus yard. That has to do with a few months back we had gone over our contracted rate of fuel, and we were billed at a higher rate than what we were contracted for, so they're going to credit us back for that difference. Our warrants total $2,496,877.64. Going through the warrants, as I did with Linda, the first one that I want to point out is a line that you'll see that says 73 Church Street LLC. That's going to be a newly recurring $2,900 payment that you're going to see. And that is for, and I'm very happy to report this, it is a transition program. And it is called Guilford Transition Academy. It's for students 18 to 22 who have completed 4 years at Guilford High School but still require additional services. Students who attend will learn and practice life skills on site and will be able to participate in community-based and vocational activities in town. And we've already started moving into that, and there's already 6 students?
Yes.
6 students enrolled in the program. So very happy to be offering in-house program services for students that otherwise would be outplaced. As we walk through the warrants,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can we stop right there?
You sure can.
Just questions more for whether it's us or the audience. 73 Church Street, could you explain which property that is?
across the street from the rec center, just a few houses down to the left.
Because some people would say, be like, 73, is that the property right next door?
No, it is not the
It is
property
not
directly
that,
next
okay.
door, it is across the street.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
And we're leasing just the first floor of the building.
First floor, okay.
Moving through the warrants, some of the questions that we discussed at the meeting had to do with, we had a large number from AAIS, $140,000. This was asbestos abatement at Baldwin to remove carpet and tile.
Thank you.
In terms of the Dell 241, that is for Chromebooks for the elementary grade students as well as grade 5 and grade 9. They were purchased from the capital lease. You'll notice a charge from Fish Window Cleaning. That is for our very unique front entry at the high school. So this is a specialty cleaning for the glass specifically. We also had Rutolo for $13,000 for AWC water lines. This is for a new gas line that was run for 2 new appliances. They also connected hot and cold water lines for overhead to the attic, to a new steamer unit, and ran a vent outside to the attic area soffit outside the kitchen of the building. And those were the real ones that kind of jumped out at me and the rest of the board regarding the warrants. Happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
May I ask a question about the Chromebooks? Are they purchased or leased? And what happens to the ones that we no longer need?
They
Do they
are,
go back?
no, they are purchased. We do have a replacement program for them. The ones that can be used, we use them as backups for replacement for other ones that are being repaired or if something happens. It's like a 5-year cycle of the Chromebooks that we try and cycle through. If they cannot be used and we don't have any use for them, we have sold them back to an e-waste. I think this is one of the first big recycling, big renewals that we've done. So we'll see how it plays out.
So I can't, there was like 241,000. That's right. And it was how many students? Primary schools?
It was elementary level, 5th and 9th.
Oh, 5th and 9th.
Yes.
5th and 9th.
So it's quite a few grades.
No, 5th grade and 9th grade, not
Oh.
5th through 9th. 5th grade and 9th grade.
The students
Because
keep
they
using
keep it.
Chromebooks for all
Yeah.
of 5th through 8th and then
Yeah.
9th through 12th.
Great.
I got a couple questions.
Sure.
I got a follow-up question from last meeting. I had asked about the FOIA request that we forwarded to legal.
Yes, I followed up on that again today with one of the law firms. When I went through the bills, they were not clearly identified where I could separate them out. And they apologized for not getting that information to me. So they're supposed to be getting it to me this week, and I apologize for not having it to you before. I should have followed up earlier on it, and I dropped the ball on it.
Okay, well, appreciate that you're still on it, so you
Yes.
can get back to me.
Yes, I certainly will.
And then, I read in our local paper that members of our school Board of Education and our superintendent and some of our staff are now named in a lawsuit. And I'm wondering, where's the liability for that here in our budget? Is that going to affect our insurance line? Is that going to affect our legal lines?
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer that question. That will be covered by our insurance carrier up until the point where they determine whether or not they want to sell the case or continue to pursue it. And we will have some significant exposure beyond what our insurance carrier covers. And potentially, if our carrier decides that they don't want to defend it any longer, we would be responsible for that defense. At this morning's Board of Selectmen meeting, the Board of Selectmen passed a resolution suggesting that we supported the Board of Education and we will support financially throughout the process the efforts to provide the best legal defense possible to protect our school district, our town, and our reputation from an outside organization who has decided to fund a suit being filed by 3 Guilford residents. So that is where the Board of Selectmen landed this morning. And yes, Jonathan, there will be costs associated with it.
And no concern as to whether you should look into whether these allegations are true?
Jonathan, that question is
That's why they're
absurd.
in the court.
That question is absurd.
I don't think it's
The
absurd.
Board of Education.
I'd like to
has
know if
alre-
the
has
school is
already- the
operating,
Board
you
of
know,
Education-
under
Jonathan,
policy and it's
Jonathan,
affecting
excuse
people
me,
this way.
Excuse me for a minute, Jonathan, I'm talking. The Board of Education has.
Please,
and the
go ahead.
Superintendent, the Board of Education, the chairperson, the president of the teachers union, and our superintendent of schools have already stated unequivocally that they are not teaching critical race theory. As it relates to some of the children and the activities on their children that were named in that, quite honestly, I found it interesting that it's John Doe, last name, Jane Doe, last name, which is usually protected information in federal lawsuits. So those folks are going to be met with a resistance from a legal perspective. We will defend the town of Guilford and its employees to the length that we need to. In terms of whether or not investigating these accusations are true, I think if you read the lawsuit, there's already a contention that somebody says we haven't done enough, and somebody says, yes, we have done enough and we've investigated it. It's now in the legal arena, and Jeff, you can talk to this better than I can. Beyond that, I will not comment on the suit itself.
So just an automatic decision that it can't be true, and
No,
there's no
Jonathan,
need to look at a possible allegations from our residents that the school might be operating in a way that's not fair to the residents.
Jeff, would you
Our
like to
Board of
respond
Education,
as an
our
attorney?
Board of Education has already determined that some of these claims do not have merit. So, they resorted to filing a lawsuit
Wouldn't a
to
judge
challenge.
decide if it has merit?
They resorted to filing a lawsuit to challenge what our Board of Education has determined to be the case. And it is now in the hands of a judge or a jury. I'm not sure what kind of case this is going to wind up being. But if your point is that they haven't investigated this, I don't think you're standing on firm ground.
So you were able to make that decision right now?
No
that
one's made any decision.
There's no possible way the school could be operating in a way that's unfair to the residents?
That's not a question. That's not a question.
There's a due process. So,
The
how do you even answer that?
The plaintiffs have alleged facts in their complaint. They have the burden of proving those facts. If they can prove the facts and a court agrees with those, makes a finding that the facts that, as they've alleged them are accurate, and that there's some liability on the part of the town, then the town may be forced to compensate the plaintiffs for the damages that they're seeking. Nobody's made that determination yet, but in their
I
complaint.
think people should remain neutral until they realize what's going on.
But don't you, but don't, but
I don't think that's fair to just automatically assume that the residents are wrong. It's not fair to automatically
Who said
assume
anything, who said anything that the
our staff
residents?
is wrong. I think that you should just remain neutral until we determine what is exposed from the case.
I haven't heard anything
not
that the
remaining
first,
neutral?
I haven't heard
They
anything.
just said 100% support for the
They are
board.
defending their
Supporting the
employees
defense
who've
of the
been
Board of
alleged,
Education, not
who have
supporting
had
the decision,
allegations
not
filed against them.
defending a decision.
There's no,
I'm
that's
not
no.
going to make you know what? I am not going to make this a political circus on the Board of Finance. So you know what? I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to put up with it. This is not a political circus. The Board of Education, okay, has been served. Our purview is whether it's going to cost this town money and how we're going to spend the money and how and what we're going to do. This is not our purview to decide, take sides on this. We're going to stay neutral on this. The Board of Finance is not going to pick a decision.
It exposes the taxpayer. If the school
It does,
is not operating in a fair
And we're going to support the
way.
Board of Education in terms of the legal ramifications
We
of this.
don't have a choice. If there's a judgment, you have to pay it, right? So like financially, we're obligated either way.
Tell to the plaintiffs.
That may be a valid point.
I didn't go to law school, but that's.
I don't think it's fair to make assumptions about
Nobody's making any
what's
assumptions.
going on.
Insurance
I think we should
company
remain
picked
neutral
the
until it's
Wait,
law
discovered
firm?
what happened.
Nobody has
Yes.
made any
Okay.
assumptions.
Yeah.
Nobody has
Can you
said,
state that? Hold on, Megan, please.
Sorry, I have a relevant question for this process. So the insurance company will pick the law firm, so you're going with whoever, the town goes with whoever the.
Correct. We have an ability to discuss with them who they select, and we also have the ability to ask for a second chair.
Okay.
Which is someone who can support
Yeah.
the activities of the attorney that is appointed by your insurance company. And I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, all right, but we're just in the beginning process of that.
Brent, I'm not sure we've actually even been served yet. The federal process to serve takes significantly longer than it does in the state process, if I'm not mistaken, Jeff, right?
I don't do a lot in federal court, but I think that's inaccurate. They file it with the court reviews it, and then it gets served on the different.
I think at the state level, they have 24 hours for a marshal to serve you or attempt to serve you.
Yeah.
I think that's the way it works.
Well, the question was about taxpayer exposure, and it looks like the insurance company will cover some of the costs unless they run too high.
They will
depends
they
on
will
the
cover some
coverage.
of the costs up until the insurance company decides what they want to do with the case.
But
Okay.
Which we have no idea.
Right.
Yeah.
But
And
regardless,
as I think you all know, insurance companies' rates and charges are traditionally defined by your experience modification, so.
Right.
indeed.
And it'll definitely
It's worth
impact
mentioning,
the-
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, it's
No,
worth
it's okay.
mentioning that regardless of the outcome, our insurance rates are bound to go up.
Yeah, it'll definitely impact our
So
insurance.
that's something for taxpayers to take under advisement.
Now, has this ever happened historically before? Guilford?
I'm not aware. I've been involved in this game for 31 years. I've never heard, I don't recall the Board of Education ever being sued for anything.
Am I right? Not to disagree with you, my
Right.
recollection is about 25 years ago, the Board of Education was sued in connection with a bullying incident.
Bullying case, you're right.
At one
You're
of the
right. You're
schools.
That's right.
But that's the only one that I can recall. There may have been others, but that's the only one.
Was
I
that
can
state or federal?
recall. I believe it was state.
Yeah.
Okay, well, those were some explosive questions, but those were some questions I have.
Anything further?
I had a much more benign question.
All right.
Go ahead, Amy.
Page 5 is HD Sigur, like $33,000 base student accident. Is that an insurance line or is that a one-time?
It is a insurance policy, it's
Okay.
a student accident policy.
So it's for that year. Okay.
And the second line is the catastrophic claims for that policy.
That's the writer, right?
And that's the annual cost.
Okay.
Yes, catastrophic claims writer.
I had an even more benign question.
Right?
SolarWinds license agreement up on page 3 of the warrants. Is that just what I'm assuming is something to do with the?
IT security, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one's that, Solar?
CDWG is the name
Oh,
of it.
okay.
Yeah, it's a software company.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Let's see, tuitions are in here, yeah. Were you going to go through, did you say you had further remarks
No,
on
I
tuition?
wanted to talk about the transitional program and the impact that it's going to have on tuition due to the fact that it is going to allow for a lot of in-house placement.
Yeah, I noticed that tuition, that you said there's timing differences. Tuitions in this report add up to $385,000. And I apologize, I could have either looked this up from last year myself or given you a heads up.
No, that's fine.
I didn't get there. So it's almost 15.5% of the warrants. It seems a big number.
It is a big number.
Okay.
And I looked back and a lot of it is timing. There's a couple that are annual payments, so we're paying it up front all at once. What I can tell you is, I didn't do a full tuition report for the Board of Education. I did do just an update on the student counts. So currently, we have 3 less private outplacements, and we have 4 less public outplacements.
Mhm.
So right now, our counts for the number of outplacements is down. We're hoping that's going to translate well to the budget. I am going to go with an estimate for the excess cost to only be at 70% because depending on how the legislation goes, that's where our percentage would fall. So I'm going to stay with 70% for the excess cost. I will have a full report next month. We're still trying to get some of the final contract numbers for some of the outplacements, so I don't have them all yet. So I will get that for next month.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Sure.
At that 73 Church Street, so the staff who are teaching, are they already special education staff, or is it?
We were able to do this with existing staff, so we did not have to hire any additional staff. We were able to just move some staff over there.
Great.
We will have some additional expenses, but there were 2 students that were outplaced that we brought back in for this program, and the savings from those 2 outplacements should cover the majority of this program expense.
That's great.
And the location allows them to be able to walk to the green to do some
Yeah, it's very
jobs
convenient to the center of town, which
and
is
do
great.
some other things.
How long is the lease?
It's a 2-year lease, and then we have some possible ideas of how to continue this program after the lease. In possibly another location or extending the lease.
I have to imagine it's been fairly well received by the participants and their families. It's early, I
Yes.
realize, but still, the fact that they're able to stay in town is going to be.
Should be celebrated.
Yeah,
That's for
I
sure.
did hear one comment from one parent whose student hadn't even started on the first day, and said they were so excited to have the student participate in this program that it was going to be something that they thought was going to be very beneficial, and loved the location and actually loved the building. It is actually a very interesting space that definitely allows us to do everything that they wanted to do in this program.
Great. That's exciting.
Yeah, kudos to the Board of Education on this. Was it modeled like after any particular program, town model, or is it just something, like how did it just come to fruition? The space opened up and we had the availability, obviously, of
We
the
had a transition program
teachers.
running out of the high school, and we wanted to expand on it. And
Yeah.
there are other outplacement programs that we're kind of using as a model. But we thought that in order to expand on this, we needed a space and not in the high school, because
Right,
the whole
right,
thing was
right.
to get them out of the high school. They're finished
and
with that part of
acclimate
it.
them into this kind of
They're finished
environment.
with that part of their education,
Right.
and now they need,
Excellent.
More independent living.
yes.
Right, right. Great, thank you. Anything else on financials, warrant, regular meeting minutes, anything further on the program?
That's
Anything-
all.
Anything further you'd like to bring to our attention?
I just had one other question. Enrollment, how's it looking for generally for this year? I know there was a comment about some increased class sizes at some of the elementary schools. Is that
Classes.
a reflection of higher?
We've
than
made
anticipated?
some progress in terms of class sizes at specific grades where we were not ever above, guidelines.
At the high end.
Yeah, right. But we were at the high end, and we made a few decisions in terms of expanding classes. Enrollment is, some numbers are still at that high end, but well within range. So.
And we have started working on another demographic study.
I saw that. That's
So
great.
we will be hoping to have that at the December Board of Education meeting. So it would be great to have it for the budget process.
Oh, received it or sent it out?
We have it, right now the plan is to have them present their final report at the December Board of Ed
Okay.
meeting.
Terrific.
Is this the same group that we used last time?
No, it is not.
Good idea.
Well, except that the group that did it last time, if I remember correctly, is the one that did it previously
Which
and
was
was
spot
dead
on.
on accurate, and then way off the second time.
Staff changes.
So,
Well,
yeah, it must be.
no.
Personnel.
Must be. So maybe this one will be somewhere between the two.
Is it
Demographer.
The demographer has passed away, who did the previous one. So we are actually going with somebody from Slam Collaborative is doing it.
Terrific.
Good choice.
Just need more blizzards.
I pulled all the other business managers that I could across the state, and his name kept coming up.
Let me guess, Michael Zuba.
Yes, Michael Zuba is doing it.
I know him well.
He
Yeah,
came
he's
highly recommended.
Very, very good choice. Tell him we
So
have it.
we are looking forward to getting that report, and certainly we'll share it when we get it.
Great.
I have one off-topic question, if you don't mind. I keep getting asked why we started September 6th. It seemed later than other schools. Somebody said snow days and blizzards. Are we counting on no snow or all Zoom?
Honestly, it's a board decision, and we contemplate this every single year, and we really depend on hearing back from parents. And I hear a lot of the parents that I heard back from was extend summer out until after Labor Day. It's mixed across the shoreline. I mean, we're certainly not the only ones.
No, I was just curious, as people ask. I tell them, when the earth was cooling, we would start the day after Labor Day. That this is more toward the traditional that I recall. So, nothing to it.
So
The last days
no
of
big
summer.
rumor part of it. Just
The original calendar that was presented had us starting before Labor Day, and we got a lot of feedback saying that they preferred the after Labor Day start, so the board changed the calendar.
I think it's easier on everyone.
Although it should be noted, staff reported before.
Yes,
Staff
they
does
most definitely
report
did,
before Labor
yes.
Day.
Okay. If nothing further for the Board of Education, I entertain a motion to accept the report of expenditures for the Board of Education for August 2022 in the amount of $3,496,141.15.
So moved.
Second.
Gotcha. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. John, Linda, thank you. Appreciate it. Heading over to item number 5, review and approve the report of expenditures for town government for August 2022. Mary Jane, would you like to sit in the chair that you so kindly pulled up before? As we set up the table.
I wasn't going to put chairs here, so I didn't have to come up here.
I insisted.
Does it work for us too?
You weren't here to set up chairs, otherwise you might have had a say.
Okay.
Good evening.
Revenue?
Revenue. I would absolutely love to start with the revenue, which is how I started my selectmen's meeting this morning.
Okay.
The first, I have a few lines that I'd like to go over. First of all, I'd like to say that we are about 17% through the year. We've brought in 53.1% as opposed to 40.6% last year at this time. On the selectmen's line item, we had a large group of items that we had been holding and went out for surplus. We have a new company that we use, GovDeals, that we went out for bid through an online auction and brought in some good revenue for some of our items. That's why the selectmen's line is showing almost $14,000 for the month. The next line is finance. Well.
You're going to ruin my question.
I know. So,
What happened?
I know. So a few things happened. First of all, our interest rates have increased some, but we had a significant amount of money that we were able to invest. You'll see on the tax collection line that we've brought in almost 56% of our tax collection. That was a significant number that we had to invest early on. We've also received additional ARPA money. We received some grants. We went out to bond. We had a large influx of money that we were able to invest, and this is the fruits of our labor. So hopefully that will continue, although we recently paid out our bonding, so that amount will go down. So we're doing much better in that area. It's not quite as high as we were before COVID, but it is definitely moving in the right direction. Now, of course, remember, and that's 2 months because I didn't report in July, so this is July and August. Tax collection we just spoke about, and the only other line item I'd just like to bring attention to is the golf course. We've brought in more revenue as of this point than we did last year. We had a very nice summer. Maybe the grass needed some rain, but the golfers didn't. So they were out there golfing, and obviously you can see that from the revenue. So otherwise, the other line items are pretty much where they should be right about now in what we would consider a somewhat normal year. Just take any other questions if you have on revenue.
I just have one more on the finance line.
Mm-hmm.
So are we expecting this trend to continue? Are we looking at possible $300,000 of revenue on that line?
Well, yes, like I said, this is for 2 months.
Yep.
So clearly, we do have some large expenditures that we'll be making, bonding and everything. So in July we had $30,000, and then in August we already paid out our bonding. So it's going to level off. But
Okay.
I am hoping,
Right.
that it is definitely going to
And then you
be
get
much
money
greater than last
January
year.
again, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So it'll level off and go down from now through December. January we'll have another peak, and the same thing will happen. Definitely will be meeting my budget this year, however.
Yeah.
Good.
You're smiling, Yuri.
Well,
As you should.
it's been a rough couple of years for me.
Yeah, not long ago, it was 6 times that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. We had a over $500,000 budget at one time.
Yeah.
So this is, like I said, getting a little bit closer to where we used to be.
High interest rates actually working on this line.
Correct.
Yeah.
They're not as high as they used to be, but they're definitely moving in the right
Yep.
direction.
Glad we refined those bonds when we did.
Absolutely.
Anything further on revenue? Expenses?
Okay, so on the expense side, at the end of August, we have expended 22.6%, a little less than we were a year ago at 24.2. All the line items are pretty much where I expect them to be. Some of the items that are over 17% is really timing, things like information systems where we've had to pay some of our contracts ahead of time. Same thing with insurance, those types of line items. We do have more significant costs early on, similar to the Board of Education. I will note that if you look towards the bottom, the debt retirement principal is already overdrawn. That is because we have budgeted an over expenditure in that line by applying $85,000 of premium credits. The credits that we receive from bonding in order to mitigate that, our curve. So in January, so all of the debt has been paid, all the debt principal has been paid. In January, we will pay the lease payment. I think this morning I said for Mulberry Point, but it's really the lease payment on the energy performance contract. So I said the wrong thing this morning. It just came to my head. So in January we pay that payment. Once that payment is made, this line item will be overexpended by $85,000, which is exactly the amount that I budgeted for the premium credits. So then I'll come back to you at that point and we'll make this account whole. Otherwise, I really didn't have much else of significant to discuss on expenditures unless you have a question.
Noticed economic development was trending higher. Is that more of a timing issue with dues and things like that?
Yes, exactly right. And the thing to remember with economic development is that we share that position with the town of Madison. We do pay all the expense, and quarterly they reimburse us. So her salary will be higher for 3 months, and then we'll get a reimbursement. So there will always be a lag. So there's a couple of reasons why that account is higher.
The only other one was, let me make sure I'm looking at the right one. Human services, usually, within the first 2 months, it's almost 100%, but it's lower. It's 73. Is it just,
it's a matter of how quickly they
send a
how they have to request the funding from
donation.
us.
Yep.
So we kind of let them go the first couple of months, and then we actually go to them and say, hey, we have money budgeted for you. Please.
Charities, right?
These are the charities we give to. Correct.
I know. I
Correct.
think I remember one year maybe one dropped out or something too, and we had to switch to another
why
one.
I asked the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there any that were?
All of 100% of this budget should be expended
Okay.
this year, unless something out of the ordinary happens.
Okay.
Anything else on expenses? And then we'll head into warrants. Special fund. Really not many big line items. Special fund warrant this month. Pretty small. Anything on warrants at all? 919 warrant, weekly warrant.
The new rate structure going smoothly at the transfer station.
So far? You guys would probably hear the complaints more than I.
Long as we need any garbage?
Well,
No.
we get the garbage with it, yeah, but at the transfer station, we always get the garbage.
They're today, they seem happy.
Okay, and you'll all notice that medical is its own line item under old business, and we're going to discuss that in a second.
Yeah.
So just want to make sure everyone realizes that. Usually we talk about medical at the end, but
Yeah, since we'll be talking medical later, we
Okay.
have it together.
well, it's going to be pretty quick, so you might not want to go too far. Anything else on any of the town reports? Okay. I will go ahead and entertain a motion to approve the reported expenditures of the town government for August 2022 in the amount of $11,172,364.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions, recusals? Okay. Item number 6, committee reports, is building permits. Anything on building permits? Hearing none, we will move on to item 7, old business. Discuss and take possible action on a proposal to budget a reduced amount to the medical fund. We have the medical report for this month, and we have the memo that I have to admit, I had to look back at last month to recall that there was a memo that was supposed to be part of our package, which wasn't, which is why we pushed it. So that's why this is dated 8/15, so it's not dated incorrectly. It is dated when it was supposed to.
We didn't change anything.
At this point, I think it would probably be safer to, we discussed this, but safer to recap.
Yeah, we can just give a
And
summary.
whether that's our first selectman or you.
Yeah,
Jenkins.
so first I will say that this memo was drafted by myself and Linda and Mitch Goldblatt, who's our HR director, so the three of us all had input on this memo. In a nutshell, we meet with our consultants to come up with what we have is we come forward with a budget for our medical. As you know, the medical was very high. I believe when we brought him here to speak with you, he mentioned we were still going back and looking at the numbers to try to make things better. Subsequent to the approval and passage of our budget, we received better numbers from our consultants. Our subcommittee, made up of members of the town and the Board of Education and the selectmen, all met and chose to move forward with the recommendation that we take the lower amount. It wasn't just an arbitrary cut to the medical, is based on real solid information at that time. We have, since then, we have in July and August, both the town and the Board of Education has made a contribution to the medical account based on that reduced number. Obviously, we can always make adjustments to that. We have 10 more months, but we're just here to share that information with you and to let you know that the Board of Education and the Board of Selectmen and our subcommittee all have agreed to that, and we're just looking for your input and hopefully support. And Linda, did I miss anything?
Okay. Yeah, after reading the memo and reading, even where we are right now for this report, which was somewhat surprising as well.
Well, we'll get to that.
We're going to get to that in a second, because I'm like, okay, what's wrong with that?
We'll get to that.
Okay, I'm sure there's a story behind that. And the amount that we do have, that's healthy there. I think the reduction, I have no issue with the reduction.
Right, so if for some reason our claims came in higher, that's what our fund balance is for. And I just, again, want to reiterate that it's not just an arbitrary reduction made either by the Board of Education or the town. We didn't just say, gee, we don't want to put that much in. It is based on real data from our consultants.
So, just real quick, so for the motion to take action on this, it's a total number that we're looking at on the reduction, right?
Correct. That's the total.
525,809.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have to indicate. We're not indicating any kind of an allocation of what the town. That's up to the town and the schools.
Take care of that. Mm-hmm.
So it's just a total amount that we're basically approving or supporting.
You're really just supporting that the town and the Board of Ed are taking the lower numbers as part of part of what we're putting into
I didn't really
the medical fund.
I usually craft the motion on this one. I kind of didn't, so I'm going to wing it. But I figured it's fairly straightforward. So, Linda.
Just add one thing.
Yeah, please.
This final renewal that we received from Anthem is not just the numbers that we're basing this medical this contribution on. It is also the amount that we are using to determine the employees'
Contribution.
co-pays and any rates for retirees who have to reimburse us, pay us for the insurance. So it's not just the contribution here. There is more to using these numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds quite comprehensive, in other words, there's nothing really hanging out to be addressed.
No, yeah, because not only does it help our budget, it helps the employees as well.
Right.
So I wanted to clarify something. I'm sorry, I might even got lost in what you said, but we knew about the reduction, right? So our contributions are in line with this reduced amount already?
Right, but we didn't find out about the reduction until after the budget was passed.
Okay.
So that's why we couldn't come to you with a reduced budget. We learned about this afterwards. So based on those new numbers, that's what we've been putting into the medical fund.
Okay, that was kind of my
Correct.
question. So you're
Yes.
making contributions in
Based on the
accordance with
lower amount.
latest renewal amount.
Right.
And your
If for some
best guess for the expenses.
Right, if for some reason you guys said, no, we're putting in what the budget said, we can always add more, but we have been putting in the lesser amount.
So
Okay.
with the contribution, the co-pays from the employees and money essentially from the town, what is the savings to the taxpayer in all this? Like, because it sounds like it's not, it's not the 500.
525.
But not if the teachers are putting in lower copay, then some of the savings is going to the employees. Not the taxpayer, so I didn't know what the.
Oh, right.
Right, so
Yeah.
it's 525,000, which is the lower amount between the town and the Board of Ed that were less than budgeted.
But is that all coming from the employees are putting?
No,
or
we're
that's-
talking just the portion that the town and the Board of Ed
Okay,
is.
so it's actually more than that is not going to Anthem.
Correct,
Okay.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
got
because
it.
the employee, I'm just making up numbers.
Yep.
Say on the original budget, it was $1,200.
Right.
And then with the reduced, now it's 1,000, the employees are paying on the 1,000.
So
So, and we would not go back and ask
Well,
them for more funds at this point.
So you would gross this up in round numbers, they typically contribute 15 to 18%, 20%.
About 20, roughly 20%.
So if you gross this up, the savings to the taxpayer would be 4 times this amount? No.
To taxpayers, all right?
That's what we're trying to
There-
get at.
It's
Right.
just to the employees.
Just to the employee.
Okay.
Just the employees will see the reduction in their contribution rate. What we are anticipating happening, at
Just
least
trying
on
to
the,
drill down to the bottom of that question.
It's not.
what we are anticipating happening on the town side is that these monies will be there at the end of the year, and they'll fall to fund balance, all right? Perhaps the same thing can happen on the Board of Education, but we also know the Board of Education has had some unanticipated expenditures that they know they may have to cover during the course of the year, so it may well go to cover those costs. But from the town's perspective, we fully anticipate that money is going to fall to unassigned fund balance. That's what we are saving. Now, that being said, we hopefully don't have the same situation we had with the fire department that we did last year, where their replacement salaries exceeded their budget by $300,000. So you never know where it's going to happen. But at this point, our anticipation is saving any other major budgetary catastrophes like the fire department last year. This money will fall to fund balance.
Bottom line is, we don't have an expenditure to apply to the difference.
Yep.
It's going to stay there.
Let me just rephrase this to make sure I got it. I think everyone's kind of getting it, but the renewal came in. The renewal is $525,000, approximately less than we expected.
Correct.
And we had already budgeted for that. But we're making contributions based on this new lower amount. So the expectation is, since we budgeted for that, we're probably going to come in under budget, $525,000, knock on wood.
Correct.
If the estimate is correct. Okay, so we're positioned for a $525,000 surplus. It's only a potential.
Correct.
We really have to wait to see how we experience at medical. Okay, I wanted to make sure I had my arms around it.
We do not have an additional $525,000 expense at this point that we're going to use the savings on. There is no anticipation of spending that money at this,
We wouldn't budget in the first place.
Right, correct, yeah.
Now, I think I see too in the medical
Yeah.
document that we actually had good experience for the last 2 months, if I am reading that correctly.
Well, Mary Jane.
Okay, so maybe I jumped over.
No,
Good segue.
Let's segue.
this is
All
the
right.
segue to,
Segue, yeah.
she's got more.
So
Yeah.
that's what the numbers would imply
Okay.
at the moment. Although, when I received those numbers, my first thought was, there's something wrong.
Too good.
Yeah, there's something wrong. So I have had conversations with our consultants. Actually met with Anthem on Friday. They are having, and I quote, operational and staffing challenges, both on the provider and the Anthem side, which are impacting the timeliness of claims processed. So normally we have a timing issue in July. We always have the July timing issue. That just seems, for whatever, we just always have that. They are having continued issues. So my first thing was to go to my assistant and say, "Are you sure you got all the invoices?" But I will note, you'll notice that they did get all the invoices in for their fees. It's just the claims that aren't in. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how quickly we're going to see that.
Will there be an adjustment on August, or is it because they weren't processed, it'll just be probably a bigger number in
I
September?
present them to you at the time that the money comes out of our account.
Right.
So
So
that.
it would be a September bigger number.
Right, so September, which is why I expect August to be bigger than July, So I don't book a receivable, I show them here on this report as they happen, so that you can see that, so you can see how that works. So, but I don't have an answer as to when that is going to clear up. Hopefully it will be soon, but
It's not us, it's them.
It's not us, it's not us, it's them. So the only other thing I'll note is that we have one claimant that has already gone over the $75,000 under the stop loss, which is where we start to keep track of that. I don't know if part of this difference for July and August would affect that, but we are already, that 82,000 represents one claimant already in July and August at that point. So I am showing a $657,000 surplus, but that's.
It looks good now, but stay tuned.
Yeah, it's really superficial at this point. I will be sure to let you know as time goes on when they are finally caught up and when we think that all the claims are in. But
See, now with the newer renewal number and that, $657,000 figure, I thought we were looking at a $1.3 million surplus.
So the renewal, right? So the renewal
I got
number
you.
in the revenue is already represented.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look down below, the
Okay.
amount under Town and Board of Ed already is net of the $525,000. We have already been putting in that lower number. So that wouldn't,
Right.
your decision today wouldn't have any.
Had we not done that, then you would be.
Correct, right. But it's,
So we're not $1.3 million.
we are not,
Okay.
we are not.
All right.
For the sake of prolonging the discussion, if you take a look at last year's expenditures, it didn't settle in with our insurance carrier until the fourth month. If you look at 1.5, 1 million, 881, 571 for the November numbers, I wouldn't anticipate, hopefully they're not going to repeat the same pattern, but it took us a while last year to get some kind of normalization relative to the claims data.
And of course, we do expect our claims the first part of the year to be lower because that's the time where the employees are paying their deductible for the HSA. So the first $4,000 of my claims is coming out of my pocket instead of the town. So normally the first part of the year is a little bit low. This is just much lower than we would anticipate.
Anything further on this? Otherwise, I guess so just for officiality's sake, we'll entertain a motion to reduce the medical fund budget by the amount of $525,809.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, excellent.
We thank you.
Thank
One
you.
other question, just
Uh-oh.
on medical.
Almost got away.
Stop.
I know. So I know last year, when is I know Mr. Spurgeon has continued to be diligent at getting the reductions, and that's great. But one of the things that we were talking about as we're heading not too far in the path for budgeting purposes is when do we start doing this analysis again?
Well, not only are we going to be doing the analysis soon, it is our intention, as we've noted, to go to a full RFP for all medical. So we are already discussing moving forward with that with him.
Great.
Yes.
That
Is that the right answer?
That is
Okay.
exactly the right answer. Thank you.
We also this morning discussed the requirement for Mr. Spurgeon to put together some kind of analysis on stop loss, give us some permutations of the current configuration we have, either raising or lowering the stop loss amount, and see what those kind of effects are. And as Mary Jane said this morning, we'll probably make that part of the RFP for them to respond with several permutations in
Different
terms
options
of how
for
we do
us,
it.
so that we can review options.
Excellent.
So we'll be, again, that's we have quite a large subcommittee between the town and the school that works on that together. It's a real collaboration between both sides
Well, it
for
has
the
to be,
medical.
because you've got such,
Mhm.
I mean, you've got two different
Mhm.
pools that are
Yeah,
going to be impacted
yeah,
by it.
and I think we work very well on it, so.
Great, thank you.
Run.
Anything else under old business? Okay. New business, I have one item under new business. So since our last meeting, just so you all know, there was an expedited request from the Board of Education and from Dr. Balstraci for a member of the Board of Finance to actually serve as a liaison and a non-voting member to be part of the teacher contract negotiations. That's basically historically, we've had somebody in that role. This came up, and it was decided by the Board of Education to maintain this representation. So I was going to serve in that capacity, literally non-voting representation liaison. I was not able to make it and be able to commit to it, and therefore I asked our Vice Chair, Veronica Wallace, to serve as that Board of Finance liaison for the contract negotiations moving forward. It's basically just to have representation there. No, very similar for years, Lou Federici did it for the Board of Finance. So this time around, I wasn't able to do it, so I've asked Veronica. So Veronica, I thank you for filling in the slot very quickly. I just want to make sure everyone knew that we did have representation on the Board of Education, or on the contract negotiations. And then if there's anything that can be reported back to us, it will be, but of course, it's contract negotiations, so it'll be very limited on at all. So, but at least our concerns are represented, so.
Happy to help.
Okay. Anything else further under new business? Okay, public forum? Hearing none.
I move we adjourn.
Veronica, would you? Jonathan's got it this time. Thank you very much. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everyone. Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone.
All right, Megan.